Welcome to the Total Health Podcast, brought to you by Total Health Nutrition Center of Menominee Falls and New Berlin, Wisconsin. Join Total Health founder Marty Johnson and his guests as they discuss some of the most prolific topics in natural health. Listen now as him and his guests talk about how to take back your health naturally.
Hello and welcome to this podcast. Today we're going to talk about detoxification, and I know that there's probably a lot of stuff out there on detox, but this particular podcast, I want to talk about detox in maybe just a little bit different way than you might have thought of. So toxins are toxins, but a lot of times what we need to be aware of is that even toxins from our environment obviously are a big problem, but toxins from long-term use or even shorter-term use of medications, even if it's been a while since you've been on a medication and you're off of it now, but also toxins that can be from past treatment for cancer, such as chemo and radiation. And for some of you out there, it might be that, okay, you've had radiation, but it was years and years ago. But the reality of it is radiation toxicity can stay in the tissues for years, and there are specific ways of detoxing it. So just going to talk in general about some of these issues. Basically, when it comes to medications or toxins in general, they will build up residue in the system little by little. So toxins, as they build up in the tissues, can affect how well your cells can function and output energy, which can really start to lead to fatigue, brain fog, digestive issues, joint achiness, liver, gallbladder issues, as far as how your digestion is functioning from a liver, gallbladder standpoint. And that can trigger all kinds of stuff like headaches. Kidney efficiency can also be affected because these are major sort of filters for our body. And if the kidneys become inefficient, it can lead to causing elevated blood pressure from the kidneys backing up, but also even generalized back pain and achiness into the hips because of the muscles that run over the top of the kidneys can also spasm or get tight when the kidneys are not doing as well. So a lot of this can lead to many different auxiliary symptoms, like I mentioned, and can start to really just diminish the quality of your life. When it comes to the medications and radiation or chemo, as I kind of mentioned, it'll accumulate and stay in the body for years unless it is prompted to move out of the tissues. Some of the toxins can even be pushed, deep into the tissues so that the body sort of can deal with it, or in fat, basically in the fat cells and things of that nature. The problem is that when it's locked in deep in the tissues like that, every so often the body will release some of it, and it'll continue to cause symptoms and issues unless we really do a thorough job of pulling it and pushing it out of the system. Your body is, if you want to visualize something with me, it's kind of like a bucket. So if you all your life, even from birth, you start to fill your body or your bucket with toxins, the body can deal with it to a certain degree, and it's really designed in a brilliant way to handle a lot of issues and toxins, and it will deal with it, for the most part. Sometimes as the bucket gets fuller and fuller, it will start to create symptoms, but what we find is that if the bucket gets too full and tips, then all of a sudden a person's health starts to really go downhill fast, where you just really start noticing things kind of spiraling out of control, and you're feeling sicker and sicker, or just not as healthy, achy, less sharp in the mind, energy going down, like I mentioned. So we don't want people's bucket to tip. I guess the best way I can, explain that is if your cells get too overwhelmed with toxins, which basically is the analogy of the bucket tipping, the cells can no longer even properly push out toxins from the inside of the cell, and the whole mechanism of how your cells produce energy and keep your body functioning well starts to decline. And so we don't want that to happen. That's where we start to run into more chronic long-term health issues. But the main thing is that as these cells get more bogged down with toxins, the cell wall starts to get compromised because it gets inflamed, and that even allows more toxins to get into the cell. And two things can happen: either you're going to damage DNA, which means that you're going to age quicker, but also potentially you could mutate DNA, which most of us know is not good because it can lead to cancer. So the main thing is that when we work on treating this kind of situation and working on proper clinical detox so that we're not creating more problems, because we don't want to just stir up toxins and move them around. We have to make sure that they're moved out of the body properly. But many times before we even start to detox the body, we need to build it up first. So if certain organs are becoming less efficient and run down, and your energy systems are becoming compromised, we want to support body systems like the adrenal glands, which produce adrenaline and give you your vital energy, your thyroid for proper metabolism, and also support the actual cells, the cell membrane, and the interworkings of the cell, it's called the mitochondria, to help that cell function better. Because if we don't increase the level of health to these organs and to the cells before we start stirring up toxins, the body's just going to not deal with it very well, and the person's going to feel much sicker and miserable while you're trying to detox. So we have to first build the body up, and then work on reducing the toxins or eliminating toxins from there. We also want to make sure that as we're working with a person in that area, you want to make sure that you're reducing that person's exposure to toxins. So just making sure that you're aware of different toxins that are in your environment that you could avoid, starting off with maybe even just your personal care items, deodorants, toothpaste, hairsprays, things you put on your skin, getting more natural products so that you're not adding more toxins to the body, and also cleaning up food sources so you're not getting a lot of processed chemicals from processed foods. So we have to always make sure that we're putting less in the bucket so that we can get more out of the body than what's coming in, if that makes sense. So we want to empty that bucket by less exposure, and then eventually the proper type of detox. Some of the things that we use in clinical practice to help support the cells, the cell membrane is made up of cholesterol. So you want to make sure that you're getting proper healthy oils in the body to support that cell membrane so you can improve the integrity of the cell membrane. Things like fish oil or krill oil. One thing that's really helpful in our practice is we'll do a blood test, which is very inexpensive, maybe about $85, but it's a blood test that can show us if the levels of omega-3 fatty acids in your bloodstream are sufficient. And if they are, then we know that you're going to be helping to support your cell membrane at a maximum level. Also, we want to make sure that we're putting in nutrients that help to reduce oxidation, which basically is like oxidation is like rust on a car. It's a process of breaking tissues down because of toxic exposures and things like that. So we want to take in supplements that will help reduce oxidations, and those are called antioxidants. A lot of people are familiar with vitamin C as an antioxidant, but there's many other powerful antioxidants that will work even to protect your DNA and repair DNA. One of them is called resveratrol, which is actually more or less concentrated from the red grape seeds. But there's many other ones, and a lot of times we determine what might be the best fit for a person when we're working with them. Nutrients support the cell's energy, so the actual mitochondria of the cell, which produces energy, we might use specific products like ribose or eNRG. There's a product called eNRG, but they provide nutrients that is involved in what's called the Krebs cycle, which is a chemical reaction going on inside these little power plants in the cells called mitochondria to produce, ultimately produce ATP. And ATP is every living organism's energy source. Your cells output ATP for energy. The higher levels of energy output from your cells, the better the cells can push toxins out and function better. So that's why it's so critical to support the cell function. And once the body is prepped by supporting the cells, cell membrane, making sure that the drainage organs are cleared out better, like your liver, your kidneys, lymphatic system. We want to make sure that all of those areas are addressed, and the vital organs that more or less give the body energy, like the adrenals and thyroid. Once all that is supported better and doing better, then we feel that it's safe to really start pushing toxins out more aggressively, or detoxing the body. And there's so many different ways that can be done, more than what we have time for on a podcast like this. But one of my favorites, the best, I guess I could say is one of my favorites, I like to walk people through detox process from Standard Process, which we work with a lot. And they have basically a body detox system that's really all encompassed into one shake. And this powder that really is designed to support all three phases of detoxification. So it's going to not only help to push toxins out of the tissues, but then also further support the downstream things, or downstream areas like the lymphatics, the liver, kidney, and the bowels, to make sure that you're eliminating those toxins. One thing I like about this product is that it actually has gone through clinical human trials and been proven through clinical trials to fully support all three phases of detox. And that's super important, because if we support, let's say, the first couple of phases of detox that get things moving, and then we don't support the last phase, these toxins will build up in the system and cause more damage and not get out of the body. So we want to make sure we're covering all the phases of detox, so that from deep into the tissues, through the main organs, and then out through the bowels and through the urinary system, these toxins will travel. And that's critical for healthy detox, when without causing more damage, actually, because if these toxins just start circulating around in the body, they can redeposit in specific organs, or maybe even in the brain, and cause more problems. Oftentimes we will do specialty detoxes as well, and that determines on what past situations a person was in, meaning that If a person was treated with radiation or chemo, then we'll use very, very specific homeopathics to pull out radiation or the effects from chemo. And I guess I'm just mentioning these things because oftentimes people don't think about, wow, there actually are very specialized products for pulling radiation out, whereas many general detox products may not do that as well. Okay, so that's why I would mention that. The other thing, just because it's more present in our society right now, is toxins from vaccines. So vaccines have to be stabilized somehow, meaning that they have preservatives and compounds that keep them stable when they're in the form before they're injected. And there are many substances that can be in there that are not good for the body. Some could have aluminum in them, or even different forms of mercury, different preservatives that are in these that can accumulate in the body, because every vaccine a person takes over their lifetime, there are specific residues and preservatives that can get stored deep in the tissues and really just bioaccumulate, which adds to that bucket. So there is a protocol that we put together in our clinic to handle some of these toxins. And it's very important when you're doing that to have the right binders, which are products that really absorb toxins in the intestines and then bind them up and keep them in a form that can be eliminated out the body so those toxins aren't reabsorbing through the intestinal wall. Specific binders that are made from like very highly charged carbon molecules will have a very effective drawing power to draw toxins to them, and then it just doesn't let it go. It's kind of like it's bound up in a process that allows those toxins to not really reabsorb. So there are specific homeopathics that we use. One of them is called Vaccord, and we pair that up with different drainage products to pull, not only pull it out of the tissues, but then get the drainage systems moving out. And then we use the binders to bind those up and keep it in a form that can be eliminated properly. So these are just a few ideas, and I wanted to throw this by, maybe just a little bit different angle that you might not have heard of from a detoxification standpoint. If you really want to have some direct support with detox or with anything with your health, we're happy to help you. You can certainly call our office at 262-251-2929, or you can go to our website at totalhealthinc.com, and you can request a no-charge phone consult. It's a 15-minute phone consult with one of our practitioners, and that's strictly to go over your concern.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Total Health Podcast. If you're ready to take the next steps in taking back your health, please give our office a call at 262-251-2929 to claim your no-charge 15-minute phone consult to see what next steps could be. Also, if you'd like further information, please see us online at www.totalhealthinc.com. Thanks for listening.